welcome to the first forum Salt&Light in Davos 2025. So it's the first one, the first year, and so we actually invited our guest. It's Anthony Scaramucci. He was the former Speaker of the White House, and Donald Trump kicked him out. But actually, that's another story.
That's another story.
So we do it now a bit spontaneous, but we have two, Mr. Benjamin is already signed in, but his wife will joining us in this discussion and for this forum. So special welcome to you, Mr. Benjamin, Mrs. Benjamin. It's great that you are here. Thank you very much for coming. So my name is Markus Reichenbach. I am working at the University of the Nation. It's a Christian university, and I have the privilege to host you today. For many years, I have dedicated myself for helping Christians embody the principles of being salt and light in their community. As well, that's our logo. We want to be salt and light. As you already know, Salt and Light is reflecting our Christian mandate to be a positive influence in the world and also including here in Davos. And for this, we have two brilliant speakers today to listen to them. I extend my warm welcome to all of you here, all the audience, especially the students from the University of the Nations, but all others, and as well, I don't know, podcasting it. Is there somebody online? Then also warmly welcome to you. Now I would like to introduce you quickly, Mr. Benjamin. He's a successful entrepreneur, futurist speaker, and innovatively recognized expert on innovation on creating hyper growth. He advises leaders on how to thrive in today's digital area of distributing technological change. Mr. Benjamin was honored as a technology pioneer by the World Economic Forum 2015. Thank you very much that you are here. And because I don't know your wife so very well, I think it's better that you introduce your wife to us. Thank you very much.
First of all, I'm very, very pleased to be here. Both my wife Roxanne and I are here to share some of our thoughts with you, with everybody here. This is interesting to introduce my wife, but this is my lovely wife Roxanne. Roxanne is the Chief of Staff to the Pritzker Family Foundation, and the foundation works largely on women's issues and mental health issues. She has long, interesting experience from working at Amazon and all the way to advising ultra-high net worth families in how to manage their lives, interestingly enough. I think one of the interesting stories about my wife is, and we're here in the Salvation Army when she was a child, and she can tell you a little bit more. She did not grow up with a lot of money, her family, and the Salvation Army was there to offer their help when the help was needed the most. And, my number one privilege is to introduce my wife, Roxanne. Yeah. Do you want to say a couple words, hon?
No, it's okay. Sorry, I Anthony. You guys are all expecting.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting this either.
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of background on what we do. I mean, again, Roxanne works with the Pritzker Family Foundation. They've done an enormous work in the field of mental health and women's issues. For myself, I do actually a couple of things. I work in private equity. We invest in companies that are solving the climate issue. So large-scale solar facilities, large-scale wind farms, batteries, anything that can help, our climate crisis, and at the same time, obviously, hopefully make a little money. Part of the reason why I chose this particular thing is I think we are all stewards of God's creation, And, you know, we have to take care of what God has given us, which is our environment, our world, our children. And I think it's a small way to connect what I know how to do and to improve the lives of everybody in the planet. I also work in venture capital, so we have a small office that invests in startups, different areas, artificial intelligence, etc. Yeah. Roxanne, do you want to say a couple words?
I was adopted as a young child out of foster care through Catholic Charities into my family. Had a very, very rough childhood. Religion was always something that was very near and dear to my late father, Paul. He was very curious about any and all religion. He used to have a stack of Bibles next to the table. Here's Cherry, he'd read them all the time. For me, I've had a very interesting and hard life. I was sex trafficked when I was 13. Survived, have come out the other end. And I'm the face of the stories that you hear about, and that you are able to recover and persevere and be okay. And so because of that, that's why it's such an honor and a privilege to work with the Pritzker Family Foundation, because they really do remarkable things for young women, you know, women that are getting out of horrible situations, mental health, all things that are very near and dear to me. And the most important thing for me, you know, as a little kid, I never thought that I'd have the opportunity to attend the World Economic Forum or have a lot of the experiences that I've had over the course of the last several years. And it's very important for me to try to close that gap and have events like this more accessible to the everyday person and not just the generalized elite.
Well, thank you very much for these stories. We see we have really great speakers with us today. So our question to you will focus on the theme of being salt and light, a face at work, and your unique professional journey. So of course, after the discussion, there will be time to ask questions from your side. But now my question to you, or the first question, living your Christian faith in high pressure environment. So how do you do that? You held influential positions in the world. So how do you navigate this and being salt and light in high pressure environment, political, financial environment, where ethical dilemmas and compromises are often the norm? Please.
You know, that's a very interesting question, particularly in the light of we have students here who are probably students of theology, of Christianity, and other subjects. For me, the number one thing that helps me in a high pressure environment is what is it that I'm doing will help others? Mm-hmm. It's the number one thing that gets to. It's not about, for me, it's not about, you know, trying to make money all the time, because that's not important. What's important is what you can do for others. As God says, you do unto others as you do unto me and do unto others. When you have the point of view of trying to help others and think about others' position in life, eventually you come up with the right decision. Mm-hmm. It might not be easy, but you'll get to the right one. You want to go and throw in?
Wow, it's very good.
For me, my job as a chief of staff is very high-pressured, high-powered. I manage several people below me. And I think for me, the number one thing that I always do is I try to lead with empathy. I try to have everybody on my team remember that they are a human being first and then they're an employee second. And so if somebody's having a bad day, I always make sure to check to see, are you okay? How can I help support you? And I think that that's something that is really lost in, you know, the corporate system, especially in America, especially in San Francisco, where you can just get laid off and you don't even know you're getting laid off. Your computer just shuts off. And so I think it's really just offering my team members a high level of support. And if they need to take a day off, take a day off. So I think that's more on my end. My job is much more different than his. His is a little bit more numbers based. Mine's more human based.
Wow.
Clearly more important.
So then you said, okay, the first thing in this ethical dilemma, it's always ask the question, how does it help others? This was your conclusion, as I heard, and as well, it's we see the person first and not the task. Is this a summary of what you said?
Yeah, it is. I mean, and not only about thinking about others, right? So in some situations, like I've had situations where I was thinking of firing people, right? And they weren't doing a good job. But to be honest, thinking about the many years of professional work that I've done, I think I've only fired 2 people, and I've worked in very large environment. I was the global chief technology officer of Citibank. I had 45,000 people under me, and did I fire people? No. When people were having a hard time, I chose mentoring people first. Try to bring them in, ask them, as Roxanne was saying, empathy matters. You don't know why people are having a bad day. You don't know why they're not performing well at work. Something could be happening at home that, gives them a lot of stress. And so even in those situations where you feel you have to make a horrible business decision of letting someone go, in my case, I'd rather go and try to mentor them and see if we can lift them up. Because I think you do much better service by lifting up others. You want to add something to?
No, I mean, somebody had said something to me earlier, and I know that I've definitely done this on my team, is, in business, there's always going to be you're always going to have to do something that's unethical to hopefully bring in more ethical things and whatnot. But I think when it comes to people, I think sometimes when you let somebody go, sometimes you're doing that person a favor. I have somebody on my team right now that's going through a lot of very big season in their life. And for me, letting that person go is giving them the opportunity to heal, to spend time with family and friends, to get themselves back into a mental and physical place where they can go back into the workforce and, and really just slay dragons and be all that they can be, because they're a phenomenal person. It's just not the right moment for them to be doing what they're doing. And usually when we do that, we generally give them a pretty generous severance agreement and provide mental health services for them for about the course of a year. If they need to take disability, we help them get on government-assisted disability so that they have the opportunity to really just move forward.
Thank you very much. Let's go now to leadership. To ask, as a leader in public and private sector on a high level, so how would you say your faith in Jesus Christ influenced your ethics and your leadership style?
I love that question. Yes, I have been in leadership positions. I was a senior partner at EY, Ernst & Young, for 5 years, where I literally had thousands of people under me. And likewise, at Citibank was crazy. That was like global organization, 47,000 people just in technology, and I was in the technology side. Leadership is about consistency, and it's not about the big decisions you make. It's about small decisions. It's about consistency in your action, and that you always go and always try to do the right thing. It's not about saying, oh, today we're going to do X that's big and it's going to affect our stock price, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's interesting. But what's more interesting is how you conduct yourself every day with small little actions. Because leadership is about setting example. And rather than just going and, it's not a leadership is not a dictatorship. Let me put it that way. Leadership is leading by example and inspiring others.
Wow.
For me, having grown up in the household that I have, but I was also having had the story that I've had, it definitely gives you a little bit of a, well, does Jesus not love me the same? So it's my thing, my view is a little bit different, but I think instead of maybe thinking about how God or Jesus would want me to lead, I think back on probably one of the most influential people in my life, which was my father, Paul. And, up until the moment he took his last breath, he was very just, Roxanne, you need to find Jesus Christ. You need to do this. And so now when I lead my teams and I try to make decisions, and there are the big decisions, I don't so much ask, what would Jesus do? I go, what would Paul do? And so I think, that's important to me, just being gentle and kind and just treating people the way that I want to be treated, and trying to make moral decisions, make good decisions, and sometimes that's hard because sometimes the non-moral decision yields way better results, but try not to. My dad was truly, he was my guiding light in life.
Thank you very much. So in a world where leadership often seems disconnected from value, what we see often as well here in Davos, how can Christianity leadership positions practically restore integrity, purpose, and a sense of a mission to their work environments?
Once again, I try to live my life and I try to inspire others, living the life that God wanted us to do, that Jesus wanted us to do. It was always, remember, Jesus was the most forgiving person in the world, despite the fact that people, crucified him. He gave up his life for us. So it's, again, about service, and it's about, trying to go and see the goodness of people and trying to be inspired by, how God and how Jesus, lived his life in the world. He's a great example, and I always ask myself, it's not what would Jesus do? What would make God happy? What would make him happy? What is it that you do in your life that would say, God would say, that's good. That's all I want,
Thank you.
Sorry, mine's basically a repeat. Mine is basically just, it is bringing in the human aspect into work. I'm younger than my husband, and I live in a land of social media. Before I came on stage, I was playing a stupid farm game because I have anxiety and it just helps. You have a lot of people that are just very disconnected and very much in their own world. I mean, we live in San Francisco. The amount of times I hear people say, oh man, we're living in a simulation. And I think for me, it's bringing people together. It's bringing just that human aspect. And I think it's also realizing that people have different beliefs and values, and when it comes to religion, because that's, not a one-size-fits-all thing. And so I know that the team members that I have are all very different religions. There's Judaism, there's Muslim, there's Christian. And so I just try to honor their beliefs and just be respectful towards them.
Thank you. So, do you face public criticism in your work, and how you deal with that? How do you stay grounded in your faith when these challenges are coming?
When I was 16 years old, I'm from the Philippines. I was arrested and put in jail for a year. I was tortured I was in solitary confinement. I was tortured uh, and they accused me of being a, revolutionary. Of course, I'm 16, which, and I spent almost a year of my life in jail. And the times when I was being tortured, the times when I was in solitary confinement, those were the hardest days. But, I kept my faith in God. I kept the belief that I would get out of this and I would go on to do great things. And I'm very lucky. I have a great wife. I've had a wonderful career. Materially, life is good. But to me, I believe and I owe everything to a higher power, to God. Because when you're in jail and you're being tortured and you're being waterboarded, you begin to doubt if there is a God. And then you go and say, no, I made it through the day, so God was here. And every day I go thank the Lord that, that I'm here and have a beautiful wife, a beautiful family. And those are the things that guide me, to believe rock solid in your heart that good things will happen if you keep your faith.
Wow.
I guess for me, my story, I think there's always been a lot of criticism. Previously, you were able to find out more about me on the internet, and I've been called every horrific name in the book, and people not knowing my story. I have been slut-shamed, I have been abused, I have been ridiculed, I have had people take out web pages back in the day in my name and post things. I have been given other people have decided what my story was before they ever knew my story, which sucked. And I think it's really about, I just always hold my head up high, and I know who I am deep down, and I know that I'm a good person, and I know bad things have happened to me in the past. I know bad things will happen to me again in the future, and God is constantly throwing curveballs our way, but I think that it is the constant burning desire to be more and to help other people. I'm really proud at where I am today, and I know that if somebody were to say something about me, about my past, which is why I'm so vocal about it now, I know that they're wrong. I know that there's something going on in their life that they need to tear me down. So, I love you too. But yeah, I think it's just keeping your head held up high, and once you get knocked down, just get back up again.
Well, thank you very much. It's powerful. So my last question to you, what advice would you give to the next generation or to us as young leaders? Young, okay. Christian leaders striving for integrity and for a professional work. What would you advise to them?
I think I'm going to this time borrow from my wife, Roxanne, and the magic word is empathy. Go see others. Go see life in the eyes of others. It's not just you. And as long as you have empathy and charity towards others, I think that, life will be good, and you will make the right decisions. And for you as young leaders, and I can see leadership in all of you, it's about knowing your purpose in life and knowing that serving others is really the bedrock and the foundation of leadership and, of being a good Christian and a good person.
I think for me, one of the best things, the way that I work is you are young and going up and through the corporate system or whatever your work environment is going to be. you should always remember, have the mentality of what can I do for you, not what can you do for me. If I have to go clean a toilet, I'll go clean a toilet. I'm not above that. And all good leaders have that same mentality of what I've learned. You know, I think you have to understand, I think we live in a land of social media and Instagram and instant gratification, and it, you know, you see the Kardashians carrying around these $100,000 handbags, flying around in private jets, flying business class. You know, you have this generation now that automatically assumes like, oh, well, what can you do for me? Well, I should be getting paid 6 figures immediately outside of college without ever having to prove myself or put forth my work. You know, I think it's asking for feedback. How can I be better? I always ask my employer, how can I be better? How can I make our team better? How can I make myself better? And I think if you're constantly learning how to grow, I think that will not only help your career, it will help your relationships with people in your life. It will help you as a Christian. And, you know, I think that that's what's really important. I think it's like, get off of the phones, maybe read a book every once in a while, go for a walk. You know, maybe if you play video games every day, you know, maybe take one day off where you don't do anything. Learn how to have a meal without looking at your phone. Bring in that human interaction again, and I think that that will take you places, because that is something that is being lost right now.
Yes, thank you. So powerful. And yeah, now it's time that you can also raise questions to them. And so please, you're welcome to bring your thoughts or your questions. So just hold your hand up and I will come with the microphone to you. Or do you want to add something?
No. I was just wondering. No questions. You know, you can ask anything. You can ask about private equity. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Or I can't give you stock advice because that would be a bad one. you know. But yeah, we're all in this together. By the way, I mean the fact that you're here, willing to listen and learn.
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I work with Youth with a Mission at the moment, and I will start here in this church in summer. So for me, it would be interesting to know, how did you feel supported in your way as businessman, businesswoman, from the church, like from, you know, your pastors maybe, or did you get support at all? And what would you have wished for?
I think for me it's the inspiration. You know, reading the Word of God is always a source of inspiration. And sometimes my priest, I'm Catholic. You know, I don't really differentiate between the Christian faith as the Catholics, the Protestants, but we all share the same belief in one Christ, in one God. You know, and in my case, when I hear my priest do his Sunday sermons, I draw a little bit of inspiration from that, because we have a particularly nice priest who always comes up with funny stories. I think that again, it's being guided by the Word of God is the most important thing, and things will be all right. Yes.
I'm Joshua from Kenya. I'm a student doing the school. My question is, what helps you to keep the balance between business and your Christianity life? Because most people get wealthy and they forget it.
Well, welcome to Switzerland. By the way, I know Kenya very well. We have a place in Kasigao, near Mombasa. So, and we have a wildlife preserve over there. And I can tell you the balance. I think it's just, yeah. I think.
Yeah, you just have to stay humble. And for me, I know that the day anything, like the day that going on an international trip or getting to go do something fun and exciting gets old and I'm like, oh yeah, that's whatever, then that's the day that I need to check myself. You know, when he'll buy me some nice clothes every once in a while, or I'll buy, I'll do something that just makes me feel good. And the second that doesn't, the second that that's just so normal is the second that I don't deserve it anymore. So I think you just always have to have that humility.
I second that. You know, in
Like
it's
you've never forgotten where you've come from, and
no,
neither have I. And I think
no.
that's half the battle. That's half of the struggle. I think, if you make a lot, like go back to your community. Always remember, pay it forward.
And giving back is kind of interesting. Like in our project in Kenya, so in Kasigao, which is between there are two national parks over there in Kasigao. That's where the elephants actually go from East Savo to West Savo, and I'm sure you guys are familiar. And before we entered that project, I would say, oh my God, maybe 18 years ago, the people who lived there were cutting down the trees, right? And they were cutting trees to make charcoal. And the reason why they made charcoal was so they can sell it. So when they built the Mombasa-Nairobi highway, right, suddenly it was easy to sell charcoal. So they were selling charcoal, but the forest was being cut. But when you think about it, it's not about the forest. How do you prevent a forest from being cut? You think about the people who live in those forests. You try to you serve those people, because when you serve those people who you think are, oh, these are bad people, they're cutting down the trees. They're not cutting down trees because they want to. They're cutting down trees because they need to eat. And so seeing the humility of your action and seeing why people do what they do, that's how you maintain that balance between Christianity and business life. Because again, it's like who cares if it's like money's nice, but there will be many stories in your lives, in all our lives, where money is not everything.
Yeah, I agree.
Where are you from in Kenya, by the way? Nairobi. Okay.
Hi, I'm Balsam from Madagascar. I'm not sure if I heard you right, but you can correct me. But I think you say that in business we must do sometimes things that are not really ethical in order to end up with doing things ethical. Can you explain a bit more or give examples?
So, here's the interesting thing. Like there's always in business, you almost have always the choice of like, let's make a lot of money or do the right thing. Madagascar, and I've been to your country also, right, has probably the most interesting wildlife and biodiversity in the world. In the world, this bar none. And the reason why the island it's an island, it's isolated, and there are animals that exist in Madagascar that don't exist anywhere else. And the thing is, some people, they go like, hey, we're going to go take advantage of this, but they overdo it, right? To the point of actually harming the very environment they're trying to serve. In my example, again, in Kenya, right? I mean, it was a choice. I could have just bought the wildlife preserve and, say, hey, we're going to have tourists come here. Let's get the tourists come here. Let's show them elephants. Let's show them lions, et cetera, et cetera. Let's make money. But you know what? That wasn't the right thing to do. This is not what God told us to do. If it was always about money, then let's create this super nice, first class, safari, et cetera, make money. But, by helping the people who live there, we provided them jobs. The men, by the way, who used to cut the trees, they're now park rangers for us. They're now rangers. So they prevent people from cutting the trees. The other thing that they've done is there were a lot of poachers in that area, and these poachers were actually from Somalia, right? We had the Somali poachers would come in, they would cut elephant's ivory out, they would ship it to either China or, believe it or not, to Yemen, and just to make handles for knives, and the thing was really to help the people first, rather than just say, oh, let's do a first-class wildlife safari, bring in, we could have built an airport there so people can land their private jets and make a lot of money. But that wasn't the right thing to do. If you really wanted to serve God and you wanted to save the environment, you have to save the people who live there first, because they're the ones who have to live in that environment. So I hope that example is good for you. You have an example?
Thank you very much.
There was another question from the back there from my...
Yes, please. Here from George, also Kenya.
Yeah, my name is George. I'm from Kenya, place called Masai Mara. Maybe you have
No,
heard
I know
about it.
Masai Mara, of course.
Yeah, that's the place I come from. Most of the wildlife, anyway. So my question is because you have been doing business and also you are Christian, how do you see, or what are your worries with the current generation going forward doing business, and what are the effects, what you'll feel like you can give an advice, maybe in a Christian view, or how do you expect much to be done? Thank you.
That's another great question. But I think it brings back what both Roxanne and I spoke about, right? Be humble, number one. Okay? See the world in the eyes of others rather than just yourself. It's really important for you to have the empathy and the respect for others. If you do these things, you will make the right decision.
I think it's also, never using the word. I have some employees that sometimes come up in what I do, like, we don't have clear job titles. Don't ever say that's not my job. You should go from the bottom up, and I think that brings a level of humility, and I think that gives you an opportunity to know what somebody else, then you know what their shoes are like, because you walked in those shoes. So, and if you see somebody struggling below you, be Christ-like and help them. If you maybe that's not your job, but maybe they need your help. So I think that that's something that I find to be kind of lacking now, that kind of really needs to be more in the forefront of everything. I think it's, again, putting down the phones, putting down the electronics, realizing that behind that telephone or that chat bot is an actual human being. And so just, be reverent, be kind.
Okay, is there a
Just
last
one more,
question?
last question. There.
Please, Sima.
First of all, thank you so much. I think your story is so inspiring, and I'm still thinking. Don't you? I'm from India, by the way. So, I have seen.
Where
that,
in India?
North India, Uttarakhand. Yeah.
Gujarat.
No, it's much higher.
Ah,
than
much
Gujarat.
higher.
Yep. Yeah. I have seen. I think the youth today is so much behind money and fame. And they want such a fast, quick fix for everything. And it is it is really challenging to bring them to this grounded life that require consistency and hard work and putting others first. What are your thoughts on how can we inspire people without killing the fire they have already?
So, that's an interesting thing. The fact is, I have children, right? And they grew up in the world of the internet, right? I mean, they did not know a life without the internet. I mean, they were born, there was the internet. Yeah, they did grow up in a life of privilege too. But, again, keeping the youth grounded is is an everyday task for all of us. It's not about giving 1 day of advice or 2 days of advice. It's about how we conduct ourselves again. You know, leading by example is probably the single best thing you will ever do. All of us here will have the chance to provide advice to another person for whatever reason. You know, throughout your life, you will be giving hundreds of advice to people that you meet every day. And in those words of advice that you give, those will have meaning. And again, I really believe that leading by example and leading with empathy is probably the most powerful thing we could share with the young people of today.
I think, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong on this one, I see it a lot in the industry and technology and finance that people are very much coddled. Like, I think that everything is so soft and everybody's so like, well, we don't want to hurt their feelings. Well, I'm sorry, at some point, like, you have to have those hard conversations. And I've cried at work before. I mean, I cried at work maybe 2 weeks ago. You know, somebody hurt my feelings. It sucked. And, you know, I called him and, you know, it's just, you just have to have those hard conversations, I think, in order, you know, I think the younger generation needs to know that, like, it's hard to fly business class. It's hard to have that BMW or to own that house. It's hard to do those things. And I think you need to have that hard conversation of saying, hey, I'm here because I started here. And in order to get what you want, you know, this is the hard work that you're going to have to put in. And I think that that's where, in my opinion, I think a lot of leadership are really failing right now, because they're really worried and scared about rocking the boat. You know, you only grow with being uncomfortable. So make your employees uncomfortable, and they'll thank you for it later. They might go cry out in the hallway like I've done a few times, but that's growth. So.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your question. Excellent questions, but also excellent answers. Thank you very much to Mrs. and Mr. Benjamin. I think it was really great, and probably we can give them an applause.
Can we have a picture with all of you? Because we'd love to have a picture with all of you, because you're now part of our family.
Let's do a picture.
Do a picture, do you
Yeah,
mind?
wait, thank you very much for, it was really inspiring. And I don't know, probably you never heard people with a leadership position, world leaders have that much influence, have that much money to deal with, and still do not lose the purpose of life. To see Jesus Christ and the values, to see others first, and not your task, not yourself. Thank you very much. It was so inspiring. It's really good.
She's prettier than Anthony.
So thank you very much for attending our forum. It was our first forum here in Davos from the Salt&Light. Tomorrow we have the next one, 8 o'clock, with Mark Jost, from the Swiss Parliament. So please join our forum, and I hope you enjoy that, and I wish you a very, very nice day.